family's emotional appeal to find the driver who killed their son. They describe William as the sweetest boy in the world as the police manhunt continues, also tonight.
TV Evening News with Lucrezia Millarini.
Good evening. We start tonight with the heartbreaking appeal from the devastated parents of a 7-year-old boy killed in a hit and run. William Brown died after being struck yesterday afternoon on a main road in Folkestone in Kent. 2 motorists were involved in a crash. One left the scene and police are now hunting the driver. William's distraught parents are appealing for that driver to come forward so they can bury their son in peace. And in a very emotional interview with ITV News, which they asked us to show, they described Will as the sweetest boy in the world. Chloe Keedy reports. Boris Johnson has hit out at the media's portrayal of the Partygate scandal, saying it was a travesty of the truth. Giving evidence for a second day at the COVID inquiry, he also apologised for the offence the gatherings caused, but he claimed the way they had been represented was absolutely absurd. Our UK editor, Paul Brand, who helped expose the Partygate scandal, reports now on more uncomfortable questions for the former Prime Minister. Well, Paul, you've been watching the evidence over the last 2 days. What did you make of what you heard?
Well, I think that's partly because yesterday was about the outset of the pandemic and why was Boris Johnson cavalier rather than cautious when it came to the timing of a lockdown, when it came to...
Paul, thank you. Well, the Prime Minister has more immediate concerns, and today he was forced to defend his revised plans to send UK asylum seekers to Rwanda. Rishi Sunak insisted a new agreement signed this week would work and wouldn't be defeated in court. But his Immigration Minister, Robert Jenrick, quit last night, saying he believed it's destined for failure. And former Home Secretary Suella Braverman stuck the knife in two and said it wouldn't stop the boats. Well, from Westminster, here's our Deputy Political Editor, Anushka Astana. Watching that, our political editor, Robert Peston, who joins me now. So, Robert, how much of a mess is the Prime Minister in?
They started of shipping asylum seekers to Rwanda in it, and the left of the party don't like what's written on the of the European Convention on Human Rights. So both possible outcome, I think they'll then try. There's so much scope for those being sent to a...
Put that vote next week. All right, thank you. The family of Ruth Perry say urgent lessons must be learned after a coroner concluded a critical Ofsted inspection contributed to the head teacher taking her own life. Mrs Perry took her own life after Caversham Primary School in Reading was downgraded from Ofsted's highest rating to its lowest over safeguarding concerns. Well, after her inquest finished today, her sister said it had shown the brutal inhumanity of the official inspections, and she said she had no confidence the watchdog would make the reforms needed. From the court, here's our social affairs correspondent, Stacey Foster. There's plenty more to come on the ITV Evening News, including... And we'll have all that after the short break. Hello and welcome back. It is now 2 months on from the Hamas terror attacks on Israel, and aid agencies are warning that the situation inside Gaza is now a catastrophe for civilians. Humanitarian organisations are unable to reach and help those in need. Even aid workers are themselves struggling to find food and shelter. And chillingly, they warn that the conditions on the ground are not survivable. Since October, more than 17,000 Palestinians have reportedly been killed in Israeli military action in Gaza. More than 7,000 of those are children. 60% of homes have now been damaged or destroyed in the bombings. The airstrikes and the risk of further attacks have seen 1.9 million Palestinians displaced. That is 80% of Gaza's population, half of whom are children. The UN says 9 in 10 people in northern Gaza are going a full day and night without eating. And in the south, the airstrikes are also continuing. A warning that there are upsetting images from the start of this report from our senior international correspondent, John Irvine. And the conflict has been the deadliest on record for journalists, according to an organisation dedicated to defend press freedom. Western journalists are not allowed into Gaza to report on what is happening. The Brianna Ghey murder trial heard today that her blood was found on the trainers and jacket of a boy accused of stabbing her to death. The boy, who is 16 years old, claims his female co-defendant attacked Brianna. Both of them deny murder. Amy Welsh is at Manchester Crown Court for us this evening. And Amy, what did the jury hear today? An external review into allegations about former This Morning presenter Philip Schofield has found that there was not a toxic culture at the programme. The review said ITV had made considerable efforts to determine the truth about the relationship between the star and a younger member of the programme's team. But the head of a Commons committee which spoke to the broadcaster over the allegations said ITV needs to do much more to encourage people to speak out and to support junior staff. Here's our correspondent Rachel Younger on the findings. So Rachel, what's the response been from those involved?
Well, didn't know about the relationship in question until...
Thank you. We're watching the ITV Evening News. It's 7 o'clock. Here's what's still to come. First, a special report on the dangers of online grooming, a problem leading detectives say is already huge and getting worse. Today, one of the country's most prolific offenders was jailed for 18 years and given a lifetime sexual harm prevention order. Ishmael Duncan, who's from London, may have targeted up to 10,000 young girls on social media, posing as a model scout. He would then groom them and blackmail them into sending him indecent images. His youngest known victims were just 9 years old. Well, it's left them and their families with lasting damage. Lucy Watson heard from the mother of one of Duncan's many victims, an 11-year-old girl who was driven to harm herself following the abuse. And if you're worried about any of the issues highlighted in Lucy's report, there are details of where you can get help on our website. Let's get an update on what is making the news tonight. Next tonight, there's more trouble for Royal Mail after an official report suggested that half of its customers have had a problem with letters. The company says it's doing all it can to improve services in the run-up to Christmas, including taking on thousands of seasonal workers. But some fear that the festive season will be tough for the postal service and those who rely on it. Here's our consumer editor, Chris Choi. Prince Harry has told the High Court that he and Meghan were forced to leave the royal family and move to the United States. In a witness statement, the Duke of Sussex said it was a matter of great sadness as the UK is central to the heritage of his children, Archie and Lilibet. Our royal editor, Chris Shipp, is outside the court this evening. And Chris, this is part of Harry's case against the Home Office's decision to remove his publicly funded protection, isn't it? The family of poet and writer Benjamin Zephaniah described him as a pioneer who gave the world so much after his death at the age of 65. Born and raised in Handsworth in Birmingham, he was dyslexic and left school at 14, unable to read and write. But he went on to become one of Britain's best-loved poets and also starred in the TV series Peaky Blinders. He died this morning after being diagnosed with a brain tumour just 8 weeks ago. Sergio Carrier looks back at his life and legacy. Still to come before Emmerdale. Join me for that in just a minute. Welcome back. Manchester city centre is a setting tonight for one of fashion's biggest and most prestigious events. Chanel is hosting a show in the Northern Quarter, the first luxury brand to do so. Victoria Grimes is there for us this evening. Victoria, what a big moment for Manchester. And finally tonight, from the catwalk to the fox pen, an animal sanctuary in Worcestershire has just welcomed 2 tiny fennec foxes as part of a European breeding programme. It's hoped Laszlo and Pascal will help save their species from extinction. Amy Lewis went to meet them. Gorgeous. That's it. The weather is next. And Julie is here at 10:30 after I'm a Celebrity. But from me and all the Evening News team, bye-bye.